On the final day of my 80-year life, I lay on the warm cotton bed, feeling the last moments of my existence slipping away. My equally aged husband knelt by the bed, clutching my hand tightly and wailing inconsolably, Yulian, wait for me, don't go." I forced my eyes open, wanting to see him one last time. Just as my consciousness was fading, I heard the voice he had kept hidden for 20 years, "You old hag. You should have died long ago, your worthless life is finally over. Tomorrow I can bring Qingshua's ashes home." She was the only woman I ever truly loved. It turned out he hated me for using my identity as an educated youth to take everything that should have belonged to Jiang Qingxue. He hated me for being selfish and greedy, for trapping him with schemes, forcing him to marry me. What I hate most is that I caused Jiang Qingxue to be beaten to death by her abusive husband after marrying someone else. Her body left in the wilderness for 3 days before anyone found it. I went back to the day of my engagement, facing all the excited relatives in the room. I spoke directly. I've only met him a few times by chance in the village, but his heart belongs to Jiang Qingxue, the educated youth from the city. The words landed like a boulder crashing into still waters, instantly silencing the previously smiling crowd. Wang Tianhe, who had been sitting properly beside Li Tsuehua moments ago, suddenly sprang to his feet, his face livid as he roared at me, "Yulian, have you lost your mind? What nonsense are you spouting? In my past life, on just such a summer day, the Wang family had brought Tianhe and a matchmaker to propose marriage. Mother had Zhang Xiaoyan hide me behind the curtain in the main hall to observe them, listening to the matchmaker's honeyed words about us being heaven's perfect match. My heart swelled with sweetness and my cheeks secretly flushed. I was already ensnared by his carefully laid trap of tenderness, believing I had found true love, so I coughed 3 times softly to let my mother know I was willing to accept this marriage. Later, when my father came home from work and heard about this, he specially called Wang Tianhe to the small room at home to talk for a long time. I don't know what he said to my father, but in the end, my father surprisingly agreed to the marriage. After that, the two families quickly set a date and prepared simple dowry items, and I became a wife of the Wang family. For the next 60 years, I always thought I was the luckiest rural woman in the world. My husband was hardworking, and later, with my help, he passed the college entrance exam and became an official. We had a son and a daughter, a harmonious family, and he never sought out other women. It wasn't until I was 80 and seriously ill in bed that I felt my days were numbered. Wang Tianhe was also completely gray-haired, his face smeared with tears and snot, kneeling at my bedside, calling out incessantly, Yulian, slow down, wait for me." I forced a smile, wanting to raise my hand to wipe his tears, to tell him that this was a natural death, not to be too sad, but I couldn't speak anymore. At the moment of my passing, I strained my eyes to take one last look at my lifelong companion, my husband, and to let him know that I had lived a fulfilling life and had no regrets in dying now. The words died on my lips as the village doctor shook his head. My consciousness faded, leaving only the sound of my family's muffled sobs. Gradually the weeping faded, replaced by the shuffle of footsteps coming and going, until old man Tianhe's gravelly voice cut through the silence, and the 60-year-old bitterness festering in his heart. He resented how my educated youth status forced him into a lifelong vow, stealing his chance to be with Jiang Qingxue, the woman he truly loved. I resent my high education level, forcing the entire Wang family to cater to my moods, and there isn't a single relative in the Wang family who can tell him the truth. What I hate most is living too long, occupying his house for 60 years, enjoying his support and care, while his Jiang Qingxue married a miner who beat her, and after her death, she was wrapped in a ragged cloth and dumped in the wilderness, where she went undiscovered for 3 days. Finally, the wait is over. You've proven to be a tough one, dying before me. Too bad my Qingxue won't see this day. You took me away from Qingxue, and your father wouldn't allow me to have an affair, but the job and status you gained by marrying me should have been Qingxue's. Without you, I could still get into college and become an official. It's all because I married you. This bookworm, that I've been looked down upon everywhere, and it cost me Qingxue. Lin Yulian, it's all your fault. You'd be better off dead. I'll dump your ashes into a cesspit. You go down and apologize to Qingxue. After I died, my soul followed Wang Tianhe, watching him shed crocodile tears at my funeral, then calmly took over my savings and paycheck. Then he revealed his true, hideous nature, refusing to bury my ashes and even digging up Jiang Qingxue's hastily buried remains from the wilderness, placing them in a red lacquered coffin, planning to put them in a prime spot in the village cemetery, and even changing her name in the genealogy. He issued an ultimatum to my children, saying that he must be buried with Jiang Qingxue after his death. Only then did I understand why Wang Tianhe had hidden my ashes so thoroughly. all to use this moment to threaten my two brainwashed children. Seeing my children's helpless expressions as they were bullied, an overwhelming rage ignited within me. Late at night, a strange gust of wind overturned the kerosene lamp in the kitchen. I watched coldly as Wang Tianhe struggled and screamed in the raging fire, my heart filled with nothing but immense satisfaction. Suddenly, faint, broken calls echoed in my ears. I turned sharply, and the scene before me began to reverse rapidly. In a daze, I was no longer in the midst of the fire but standing behind the curtain in the production team office on the day the Wang family came to propose marriage. Before I could think further, the matchmaker in the office had already said a lot and was now waiting for my mother to respond. My hands trembled violently beneath the coarse sleeves. Digging my nails into my palms, I forced myself to stay composed, since fate granted me a second chance. I'd see what that good-for-nothing Wang Tianhe, just some team leader's spoiled brat, could achieve without me as his stepping stone. Stepping out from behind the cloth curtain, I straightened my posture with educated youth's poise and gave a measured nod to the assembled crowd. Then I fixed my gaze on Wang Tianhe's ashen face and said coldly, "Comrade Wang, mind your words, we've only met a few times in the fields. It's not like we're close enough for you to call me by my first name, and what? Did I say something wrong? Isn't Jiang Qingxue the educated youth, carrying the keepsake you gave her, that little stone engraved with Eternal River, and showing it off to everyone? She's been bragging about how she's deeply in love with the son of the brigade leader and how she's about to move into a brick house to become a young mistress." I glanced at the back door. Zhang Xiaoyan had already left. I believe it won't be long before Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingxue's affair spreads throughout the village. In my previous life, only after I died did I learn that Wang Tianhe had once tricked Jiang Qingxue into thinking he would marry her. Later, he abandoned her for the job quota in my hands, forcing her to marry a coal miner from outside the village. It was clearly his own greed and cunning, yet in the end, he blamed all the faults on me, leaving me without even a resting place after death. Since that's the case, this lifetime I will expose his true nature in public, so that everyone in the village can see who is the most despicable. I looked at Li Tsuehua and pretended to be surprised, saying, "It seems Aunt Li hasn't heard about this, has she? I heard from the villagers that Jiang Qingxue is beautiful and graceful, with a slender figure. Yuelian would like to congratulate Aunt Li on finding a wonderful daughter-in-law." Wang Tianhe glared at me with a livid face, immediately launching into a rebuke. "Yuelian, you're an educated youth. How can you gossip like a shrew, spreading nonsense in front of the elders and villagers? You clearly slap." My mother slammed the enamel cup down on the table, cutting off Wang Tianhe's words. Realizing his slip of the tongue, he quickly shut his mouth, but his reproachful gaze remained fixed on me, which I pretended not to notice. Li Tsuehua, as if waking from a dream, quickly forced a smile and tried to smooth things over. "Miss Yuelian is absolutely right. I truly had no idea about this matter." She shot Wang Tianhe a sidelong glare, her face burning with irritation. This foolish boy probably heard those educated youth from the city were cultured and got stars in his eyes. His recklessness dragged us here uninvited, disturbing Sister Chen and Miss Yuelian. "We're terribly sorry for the intrusion." The Li Tsuehua's words dripped with apology. A flicker of smug satisfaction crossed her face. She'd secretly feared a learned daughter-in-law would dominate household affairs. To her delight, not only had the refusal been swift, but Wang Tianhe's entanglement with another urban educated youth had been exposed. Now, not only would her family reject him, but likely no village girl would glance his way again. Li Tsuehua's words carried hidden meanings, subtly implying that Wang Tianhe had acted on his own to forge a relationship recklessly, making Wang Tianhe's expression even more grim. He bowed deeply to my silent mother, then pulled a delicate little pouch from his pocket and held it up before everyone, saying, "I don't know anyone named Jiang Qingxue. My sincerity with Miss Lin is proven by this pouch. Please, Auntie, investigate clearly." My mother glanced at the pouch, clearly made by my own hands, and asked, "Did you make this?" I nodded, then deliberately put on an expression of both embarrassment and anger, saying, "I did make this bag. But it was clearly exchanged for a notebook with you during the collective study session in the county last month. Now you're using it to deceive people and prove your innocence. If I had known you were such a person, I would have given the bag to the donkey in the production team instead of you." After saying that, I had Zhang Xiaoyan bring out the notebook filled with formulas from the house and threw it on the ground, fully acting out the anger of being deceived, insisting that I had only made a simple barter exchange at the time and had no idea he had other intentions. In the village, it was common for members to exchange small items like handkerchiefs and notebooks. Last month, when all the accountants from the commune went to the county for training, I made a small cloth bag that I really liked. but since I had a crush on him, I deliberately made it sloppier to submit, while secretly giving the most exquisite one to Wang Tianhe. At the time, he casually handed me a notebook filled with formulas but no notes, and even said it was prepared for me. Now, looking at those crooked, atrociously ugly handwriting, it was such a waste of my heartfelt effort. Wang Tianhe was so furious that he started yelling at me, accusing me of lying. My mother immediately dropped her cup and turned to scold me sharply. "You kids, I always tell you to be honest and hardworking, to learn and work diligently, but no, you dare to take and give away anything. One day, you'll be tricked by those shady characters." She then turned to the Wang family. "I'm really sorry, my daughter studied in the city and was spoiled by her father and me. She doesn't even understand the most basic manners," causing Mr. Wang to misunderstand. "When her father returns, we will definitely teach her a lesson." As for the rest, Li Tsuehua understood the situation and, ignoring Wang Tianhe's livid face, laughed and agreed briefly before pulling her son away. As soon as they left the production team office, I picked up the notebook from the ground and chased after them. On the small path in the village, I looked at Wang Tianhe's smug face and forcefully threw the notebook at him. "A shabby notebook is all you bring for a proposal. You should really take a good look at yourself." My voice was loud enough that the passing villagers first froze, then broke into a murmur of whispers. My mother awkwardly forced a smile and apologized, then asked the village doctor to take a look at Wang Tianhe's face when he had a chance before closing the courtyard gate. Closing the door, I threw myself into my mother's embrace. In my previous life, my mother sent me off to get married, giving me all the cloth and grain coupons she had saved. She also took out a sewing machine and a watch from her dowry. My humble and honest mother, who had lived her whole life that way, sobbed uncontrollably in my father's arms. Over the next 5 years, I had 3 children for Wang Tianhe. Each time I gave birth, my mother made him promise it would be the last. It wasn't until the 3rd birth that I hemorrhaged and nearly lost my life. When I was delirious, mother pulled strings to find an old doctor at the county hospital who prescribed contraceptive herbs. She personally watched Wang Tianhe drink the brewed medicine. Later, mother scoured hospitals across neighboring counties seeking folk remedies for my condition. By the time I regained some strength 6 months later, her once raven black hair had streaks of gray. When she came to see me, I learned about the contraceptive incident in my past life after death. Wang Tianhe confessed to my ashes how he and Jiang Qingxue had vowed to have 6 children in their youth. With Qingxue gone, he claimed it became my duty to fulfill her place. That shrew of a mother actually dared to drug me. Bearing children is your damn duty as a woman. Can't even endure this much. Worthless trash, not fit to lick Qingxue's little finger. After my father went to the city to work, my mother wrote me many letters. I often wanted to visit her in the county town, but Wang Tianhe always said I was a Wang family wife, unable to leave the farm work and children at home. By the time my children grew up and could help with the work, my mother had already passed away from illness many years ago. The last time I saw my mother was just before she was wheeled into the operating room at the county hospital. Her hair was frosted with white, and her eyes were so swollen she could barely open them. She kept sighing, "When I get better from this illness, I'll go see my Lianer. Don't let anyone bully her." Now, everything starts anew. My mother's hair is still jet black, untouched by the faintest hint of gray. Her warm embrace remains as comforting as it ever was. She gently hugged me, her rough palm stroking my back, allowing my tears to soak her chest as she spoke the exact same words as in my previous life. "You're already in your mid-20s, yet you still act like a child, burrowing into your mother's arms. What will happen to my Lianer when I'm no longer here?" I wanted to tell her that without her by my side, I learned to manage the household and care for my children. Remembering my mother's appearance and teachings, I became a capable rural woman. I would rather recount the hardships and obstacles I faced, watching my family far away in the county, while I endured countless difficulties in the Wang household. I helped my husband secure a job and urban residency, only to discover on my deathbed that I had been deceived all along, left with no resting place even after death. Mother, I was deceived my entire life. Still naively hoping for a better next life even as I lay dying, the matchmaking scandal quickly spread through the village. The entire brigade knew that the Wang family's illegitimate scoundrel tried to marry the educated youth accountant with nothing but a tattered notebook, only to be thrown out in disgrace. Not long after, rumors spread that Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingxue, the educated youth from the city, had been involved for some time, even giving away the family's heirloom stone amulet. Now, he wanted to play both sides by proposing to the Lin family, as if he had tired of plain pickles and now craved meat buns. After returning, the Wang family shut their doors tightly and didn't even light the kerosene lamp in the courtyard at night, making the whole house eerily quiet. as if abandoned. Zhang Xiaoyan, whom I had discreetly sent, reported that late at night, Wang Tianhe sneaked out through a hole in the back wall wearing the brigade accountant's clothes to meet Jiang Qingxue. Jiang Qingxue swore with her hand on her chest that she had never disclosed their relationship to outsiders. However, their affair had already spread with detailed accounts, and Jiang Qingxue indeed possessed the small stone engraved with eternal flow of Tianhe, which she usually kept in a coarse cloth pouch hanging from her waist. Previously, no one knew what it was, but now, with my people spreading the news, the entire commune would soon know what the Wang family's stone amulet looked like. Wang Tianhe flew into a rage, refusing to believe Jiang Qingxue's explanation. The argument escalated into a scuffle, and the two ended up rolling on the ground together. Zhang Xiaoyan, peeking from the side, blushed and eavesdropped on their wall for half the night. The next morning, as soon as Zhang Xiaoyan finished briefing me, the village projectionist delivered a mushy letter from Wang Tianhe. He asked for time to find the person spreading rumors, clear his name, and then formally proposed to me. After Xiaoyan finished reading the letter, Qing Feng, who was standing by, couldn't help but snicker. He and Xiaoyan had grown up with me in the village, like siblings, and always knew how to say the things I, as a city-educated youth, was too shy to express directly. Even a performer from the county troupe wouldn't be this cheesy when conning a fool. This scoundrel Wang Tianhe has a thicker skin than the city walls. I had Xiaoyan burn the letter and all those trinkets Wang Tianhe had sent earlier in the stove, then instructed Qing Feng to arrange for those who helped spread the rumors to hide at relatives' homes in a neighboring village for a few days, and not to return without my permission. Those days, Wang Tianhe couldn't find the source of the rumors and didn't dare to openly approach Jiang Qingxue, so he was so worried that he developed blisters on his lips and dark circles under his eyes. I know what he's worried about, but without my help this time, let's see what he can achieve. 2 years ago, the village secretary's nephew, Zhong Shanhe, was assigned to work at the supply and marketing cooperative as an outstanding graduate, earning the respect of his superiors. He was recently seconded to the county to assist with enterprise reform. Wang Tianhe was afraid that Zhong Shanhe would return with merit, making life even harder for him and his mother, who ran a small business in the village. Therefore, he schemed relentlessly, hoping to use me, a cultured educated youth, as a stepping stone to escape the poverty of the countryside. He had a seemingly honest face, spent half a year observing my preferences, and then took another year to cultivate a reputation in the village as a hardworking and ambitious person. Eventually, he naturally approached me, catered to my interests, and gradually lured me into his trap. Unfortunately, his carefully laid plans fell apart when I suddenly disrupted them, catching him off guard. I heard that Zhong Shanhe's temporary assignment was very successful, and he's about to return to the village. I've decided to give him a big gift to help him establish himself there. The urban youth point has been quite lively recently. Jiang Qingxue is entangled with Wang Tianhe, and now she's caught the eye of Lao Lu, a coal miner, who wants to take her home as his wife. Jiang Qingxue didn't dare to refuse directly, as her dormitory and food supplies are taken care of by Lao Lu. She could only secretly write to Wang Tianhe, pleading with him to come and save her. Wang the rascal didn't even glance at it at first. He was too busy investigating rumors and was at his wit's end. It was his mother who came up with the idea for him to take advantage of the situation and get back that stone amulet. A few days ago, I had Zhang Xiaoyan arrange an unused warehouse across from Jiang Qingxue's room, all in preparation for tonight's drama. Watching Wang Tianhe, dressed as the quartermaster, being hurriedly pulled into the room by Jiang Qingxue, Qing Feng tiptoed up to the window and eavesdropped for a quarter of an hour, returning with a grin from ear to ear. Just as you predicted. Jiang the educated youth did light that scented candle, and the two of them ended up on the after only a few words of argument. They're currently whispering sweet nothings to each other. Sister, shall we make our move? I shook my head. No rush. The real show begins when they're running around naked and having a good time. Half an hour later, a cry of fire broke the tranquil night, waking up the surrounding educated youths and villagers. Men rushed out to help put out the fire. When someone realized it was Jiang Qingxue's house, the young men worked even harder to extinguish the flames. As the fire began to die down, suddenly 2 people wrapped in wet sheets rushed out. In an instant, the firefighting villagers froze mid-action, gaping at the 2 drenched figures barely covered by tattered clothes. Jiang Qingxue's piercing scream cut through the air, followed by distant bicycle bells. The Wang family had discovered their missing son in the dead of night. Hidden in the shadows with Qing Feng, I propped my chin gleefully and murmured, "Perfect, the cast is assembled, the stage is set, now let the drama unfold." Li Tsuehua had just dismounted her bicycle when her gaze fell upon the disheveled pair on the ground. Her first instinct was to feign concern, rushing forward to check if her son was injured, while Wang Tianhe desperately clutched the damp bedsheet to avoid further humiliation. Wang Jianguo's face twisted with rage as he stormed forward and delivered a stinging slap across Wang Tianhe's face with his calloused hand. Caught off guard, Tianhe collapsed to the ground, dragging Jiang Qingxue and the bedsheet into the mud with him, leaving the pair in an even more pitiful state. The gathered villagers buzzed with gossip, while some local ruffians craned their necks for a glimpse beneath the bedsheet. Flushed with embarrassment, Wang Jianguo jabbed a finger at the couple. Stammering you, before finally ordering several young men from the brigade to haul them onto bicycles. He and Li Tsuehua trailed behind with the village accountant. The Wang family departed in a grand procession. Only after the fire was fully extinguished did Qing Feng pedal me back to the Lin household on his bicycle. That evening, Qing Feng went to erase any traces we'd left behind, while Zhang Xiaoyan helped me make the bed and asked, "Big sister, are you feeling any better now?" Looking at Xiaoyan's delicate face, I remembered our past life. 8 years after accompanying me into the Wang family marriage, I'd arranged a recommendation letter for her to work at the supply cooperative, hoping to secure her future, yet she stubbornly chose to stay by my side, remaining there for 60 long years. After my death, she was the first to tell my children about Wang Tianhe's suspicious behavior, and when Tianhe forbade the burial of my ashes, she became the sole person determined to bring me back to our hometown for proper rest. But Wang Tianhe, no longer restrained by me, now controlled everything I'd accumulated in life. With just one phone call, he had Xiaoyan killed on her way home, her body dumped by the railroad tracks, becoming another Jane Doe. Qing Feng had caught my brother's eye years earlier and joined the county transport team. By the time I died, he'd risen to manager of the county building materials company. Settling in the city with my brother and rarely returning to the village. Much better, I murmured softly, gently squeezing Xiaoyan's hand. With you here, I won't feel sad. Xiaoyan's eyes crinkled into crescents as she smiled, tucking my hand back under the quilt. Little Swallow will always stay by Sister Yuelian's side. We won't shed another tear from now on. Before dawn broke, news spread like wildfire across the commune. The city-educated youth and village delinquents' midnight tryst had ended disastrously when their passion overturned a candle, setting the house ablaze. Dragged out half-naked, their disgrace became fodder for crude work chants sung during collective labor. The brigade secretary worked through the night drafting reports to the county. Wang Jianguo was reprimanded for failing his revolutionary household duties, penalized with 6 months lost work points and banned from brigade meetings for a month. During those days, the Wang family slunk through back alleys to reach the clinic, their front gate bolted shut and courtyard lamps left unlit in shame. Within a month, the county's enterprise reform task force returned. They brought back not only good news but also much-needed raw materials and funds for the village enterprises. Delighted by this, the county immediately approved the expansion plan. Zhang Xiaoyan mentioned that Wang Jianguo's disciplinary action had been lifted too. The Wang family's gates finally reopened, and the elderly couple happily welcomed their nephew home. Before my father arrived home, all sorts of wonderful goods allocated from the county supply cooperative showed up first. Qing Feng, who led the delivery, said Dad had pre-ordered everything en route, each item carefully chosen for Mom and me. When county officials asked what reward he wanted, Dad recited his wish list like a memorized poem. Before long, my father came bustling home and blurted out the moment he pushed open the door, "Darling, Liener, did you get all the things?" Mom scolded him for being unserious and nitpicking about the county's rewards. Dad just chuckled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders as they walked toward the main hall while explaining, this was a golden opportunity. You wouldn't believe the treasure stocked in those small factories' warehouses. So many things our village could put to good use. Come here quick, Liener, let me tell you about the reform meeting I attended at the county. Staring at my father whom I hadn't seen for decades, I swallowed back tears and hurried after him. That evening, Father called me into the shed. He'd already heard about the village affairs from the production team leader on his way back from county work, including Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingshua's scandal. He pulled a letter from his pocket and placed it before me. This is from Supply Cooperative Director Zhong's nephew. He proved quite helpful during my county trip, seems reliable and gets things done. I originally planned to arrange a meeting between you two before returning, but after hearing about the trouble caused by his cousin, I'm having second thoughts. Yuelian, what do you think? I stared at the letter before me, its envelope bearing bold handwriting that read, to Lin Yuelian. In my past life, Zhong Shanhe rarely involved himself in family affairs. Stationed in the county town due to work, our paths seldom crossed. Wang Tianhe had risen to cadre status with my assistance, while Zhong, Being the direct nephew, seemed naturally at odds with Wang. Eventually, some sycophant seeking Wang's favor reported him, resulting in Zhong's lifelong reassignment as a warehouse keeper at a remote mountain coal mine. Sui Hua Li fell gravely ill from then on, leaving me holding all the reins in the household. As the elderly Wang couple gradually lost influence, real power in the Wang family naturally shifted to Tianhe Wang's hands. Given this second chance at life, Tianhe Wang lacks both my support and the resources to contend with Sui Hua Li's family. While I've paved the way for Shanhe Zhong's future, I've absolutely no interest in getting entangled with the Wangs again. Sitting beside father, I rested my chin in one hand while using the other to toss the letter into the stove, feigning displeasure as I grumbled, "You know full well about the Wang family's dirty laundry, yet you'd have me wade into that mess. Am I such a nuisance around the house?" Father took the burning letter and tossed it into the prepared metal bucket nearby. We watched silently as the paper turned to ashes before he finally spoke. "If you truly love him, then marry him. I paved the way for you, my lotus. You won't suffer the slightest hardship." In that instant, tears nearly spilled from my eyes. In my past life, before my wedding, father had dug up 2 bottles of aged sorghum wine buried in the backyard as my dowry, saying these exact same words: "Don't worry about marrying, my girl. Your old man's paved the way. My Lianer won't suffer a single slight." Before leaving the house, I asked father what if I'd misjudged the man and ended up suffering. Father took a drag of his cigarette and chuckled. "Suffer? That'd just be some swindler's dying fantasy." Half a month later, Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingshui got engaged. Wang Zhangwo personally crossed my threshold to deliver the invitation, looking far younger than I remembered, with shrewd cunning gleaming in his eyes. "Is Miss Lin avoiding my Tianhe because of that incident?" His tone left no room for doubt. As I was weighing my response, his next words nearly made me tear up. The invitation on the spot. Had I known this would happen, I should have let him finish the job back then. At least he wouldn't be struggling to find a wife now. Article 3 of the village code states, "Those who intentionally harm others shall be fined 50 yuan. I couldn't help retorting, "Captain Wang enjoys high prestige in our village. You wouldn't want to encourage your son to break the law, would you?" He stared at me, seemingly puzzled by my response. "He's already caused you enough suffering. I thought you'd be wishing him dead by now." Wishing him dead, rather than granting him a quick death. I'd rather watch his clever schemes crumble to nothing, leaving him to stew in misery and regret for the rest of his days. Wang Zhangwo was momentarily speechless. After a long pause, he nodded mechanically and said, "I understand." Then he turned and left. I'm not sure what exactly he understood, but it wasn't long before I heard about the trouble brewing between Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingshui's marriage. The village doctor found Jiang Qingshui physically frail and suspected she'd had a miscarriage before. Later, the Wang family's discreet investigation actually uncovered an itinerant doctor who'd prescribed abortion medication to Jiang Qingshui a year prior. Tianhe claims he didn't even know Jiang Qingshui a year ago. The child couldn't possibly be his. He says she wasn't pure, deliberately timing their first intimacy right after her menstrual cycle. What a schemer. No wonder her health's still so fragile after all this time. I muttered under my breath and glanced at Wang Zhangwo standing calmly behind me. "You've got some nerve talking to an unmarried woman about your son's bedroom affairs. Aren't you afraid I'll report you to the Committee for Corrupting Public Morals?" Wang Zhangwo shrugged with indifference and changed the subject. "You're right. Watching him suffer is more satisfying than outright killing him." Wang Tianhe had been sending me love letters and gifts, which I collected for a while before returning them all at once. Somehow Wang Zhangwo got wind of it and snatched the task from my younger brother. He found a crate and carried it ostentatiously through the streets, loudly announcing whenever asked, "My good-for-nothing son keeps pestering Accountant Lin until she couldn't stand it anymore. She made me haul all this junk back." The next day when my father came home from work, he told me the brigade secretary had summoned Wang Zhangwo again, saying Wang Tianhe had behaved improperly, harassing other girls despite being betrothed. Captain Wang left with his tail between his legs, storming off, probably to give Wang Tianhe a beating. Just as expected, the Wang family holed up for days before word got out that Wang Tianhe's wedding date had been moved up. Unbelievably, it was pushed forward from next spring to right after this year's harvest. True to form, Wang Tianhe still had the nerve to send me a message before harvest season saying, "When I go to the county town for the recruitment exam, if I pass, Yu Lian, can we start over?" Without a second thought, I took Zhang Xiaoyan straight to intern at the county garment factory, telling everyone we were there to learn advanced production techniques. What others thought about it was none of my business. I stayed away until the day before the recruitment exam. When I returned to the village, the party secretary told Dad there were new quotas from the county. My brother was already on the recommended list. The good news will be announced tomorrow along with the recruitment list. Lien, you should go check out the excitement. I obediently agreed, exchanging knowing glances with my father, both our eyes clearly sparkling with schadenfreude. The next day when the results were posted, I took Zhang Xiaoyan to the brigade headquarters for some excitement. No sooner had we arrived than someone shouted, Wang Tianhe got into the county textile factory. The villagers buzzed with chatter, crowding around Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingxue to offer congratulations. After enduring such a tarnished reputation in the village for so long, Wang Tianhe finally had his moment of triumph today. Jiang Qingxue showed no joy at becoming a factory worker's bride, merely clutching her handkerchief with a forced smile while her eyes darted restlessly about. It wasn't until I approached that both of them noticed me simultaneously. Wang Tianhe's face radiated undisguised delight, and those around him took notice of me too. Instinctively clearing a path between us, Wang Tianhe took a step toward me, then hesitated as if remembering something. He remained rooted to the spot, seemingly waiting for me to approach him with congratulations. I heard Zhang Xiaoyan sneer beside me. Qing Zimo had already pushed through to the bulletin board. Just as I moved to follow, Jiang Qingxue rushed ahead and threw herself to her knees before me. Accountant Lin, I beg for your mercy. Please don't leave me with no way out. The entire room froze at this sudden prostration, too stunned to even help her up. Miss Lin, you may be an educated youth from the city, but I'm also a decent girl from a respectable family. The whole village knows about Tianhe and me. Why must you meddle in our affairs? The crowd kept growing, buzzing with hushed whispers. Wang Tianhe rushed forward, trying to pull Jiang Qingxue up while scolding her. What's gotten into you? Have you no shame? Get the hell out of here. Jiang Qingxue was as slippery as an eel, deceptively frail-looking yet impossible to budge. You claim I'm here today to steal Wang Tianhe from you. Where's your proof? I asked Jiang Qingxue, watching her tear-streaked face while feigning ignorance. I watched as Jiang Qingxue frantically pulled a paper from her bosom and brandished it, shouting, here's Tianhe's letter to you. Black ink on white paper pledging to restart your relationship. Accountant Lin, dare you deny that's precisely why you came today? Of course I dare. I lifted my chin slightly with a radiant smile. As you said, the letters were written to me by Wang Tianhe. I never replied to a single word and had them returned untouched to the Wang family. Little did I expect you to intercept them and now falsely accuse me. Miss Jiang, you keep demanding I spare your life, yet we've never met before today, and I have absolutely no connection with your precious Tianhe. What sparing are you even talking about? Wang Tianhe stared at me in disbelief, while Jiang Qingxue was left speechless by my words. Stammering incoherently after a long pause, all that high-minded talk, yet here you are. I shot Qin Zimo a knowing glance from across the way, and he immediately caught on, shouting, Accountant Lin, great news, the county's issued new quotas. Your brother's reporting to town headquarters in a few days. Most villagers had heard about Lin Yuelian securing her brother's county study opportunity. They assumed I'd come to verify the rumors, not out of jealousy as Jiang Qingxue claimed. Suddenly, the crowd began eyeing Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingxue with peculiar looks. My gaze returned to their wonderfully expressive faces as I spoke deliberately. Wang Tianhe is already betrothed. You'd both do well to mind your words and hands. If this reaches the brigade leadership, it's your Wang family elders who'll suffer the consequences. Though Miss Jiang comes from humble means, she's still a respectable girl, having already compromised her virtue. You naturally must take full responsibility. Anything less would disgrace all those years of schooling. I deliberately emphasized virtue, watching with satisfaction as varied expressions, smirks, sneers, played across the faces of those present, particularly the two culprits. Wang Tianhe, who had been gloating over landing his new job just moments ago, now found himself humiliated once more. He violently shook off Jiang Qingxue, pointed at me stammering you. Before storming off in a huff, Jiang Qingxue scrambled to her feet and gave chase, only to be kicked down again when she caught up to the bicycle, leaving her no choice but to stumble along pathetically behind. After basking in everyone's flattery where I stood, I headed home. The moment I reached the gate, my younger brother informed me that Wang Jiangwo was waiting in the courtyard. Wang Jiangwo must have come straight from the fields. He was still wearing his mud-caked work clothes when he saw me. His first words were, I thought you were really going to start over with him. There was an oddly accusatory tone laced with self-pity that baffled me. I couldn't understand why he'd assume I'd forgive Wang Tianhe, nor why he was acting like the wounded party, not one to take baseless accusations lying down. I voiced my confusion outright, which only left Wang Jiangwo dumbstruck. I thought you already knew. I'm nothing like Tianhe. he murmured to himself. I nodded and spoke bluntly. Captain Wang is indeed different from Wang Tianhe, whether it's family standing or personal conduct. The captain surpasses him in every way. Given time, he'll undoubtedly climb even higher in the commune brigade. Your interest in me stems from two things. First, my educated youth status could benefit you in the production team. And second, we share a dislike for Wang Tianhe. But that doesn't mean I'd ever fancy you. Besides, as I understand it, Captain Wang already has two sweethearts from neighboring villages. Entley has also arranged meetings with several other families. Surely I'm not your only option, am I? Wang Jianguo was momentarily speechless before finally responding. If you agree, I'll have my mother turn down all other matchmaking offers. Those other relationships will be ended immediately. They won't trouble your sight. I shook my head and looked up at him. I'd never force anyone to swear eternal devotion. Vows are usually just empty words anyway. I'm only saying this to make it clear. I'd never be interested in a man like you, and your feelings for me aren't genuine either. I might be the most eligible girl in the village, but my absence wouldn't stop you from marrying someone else or fooling around. You just need someone useful. Preferably me, but anyone would do. My words were blunt. Leaving Wang Jianguo with no room for rebuttal, he could only make a hasty exit. I warned my family not to let anyone in casually from now on. With my new factory job, I'd need to be more cautious in dealing with people. Wang Tianhe was quickly pressured into marrying Jiang Qingxue, since she'd been living with the Wangs doing chores. The bridal procession was just a short walk from the kitchen to the main house. There were no dowries or bridal gifts, few guests attended. And the slapdash ceremony was downright shabby. Even the red paper double happiness characters at the entrance blew away after barely half a day. Soon after, news spread that Jiang Qingxue was in poor health and couldn't conceive. 2 barefoot village girls were added to the Wang family's backyard, turning Wang Tianhe's humble abode into a constant battleground. Between preparing for his county job and managing the jealous squabbles of his womenfolk, Wang Tianhe became visibly haggard. His exhaustion written plainly across his face. Wang Jianguo approached me several more times, only to be politely turned away by my father. Gradually he stopped visiting, and before long had arranged his own marriage to the daughter of a township official. With the wedding set for early spring, the invitation was personally delivered by Wang Jianguo himself, who said with earnest courtesy, I must have been out of my mind back then. Only thinking about my own plans and offending Accountant Lin in the process. I truly deserve a good thrashing. Accepting the invitation finally put that unpleasant chapter behind us. Just before Lunar New Year, my elder brother Lin Shuguang returned from the county town. Just like in my past life, brother's transfer ushered in 5 prosperous years for our village. The county officials were so impressed that promotions and important assignments naturally followed. In my past life, though my brother declined the transfer to the city to secure better opportunities for Wang Tianhe and protect me from mistreatment by my in-laws, he led the village youths to work at the most grueling quarry instead. The backbreaking labor inevitably left him with chronic ailments. Freed from those burdens now, my brother peacefully transitioned from his old job and took up new responsibilities as village committee director, keeping our family reunited in the countryside. My life finally settled into tranquility. Those years with the Wangs felt like a waking nightmare. Now I've emerged still Lin Yuelian in my early 20s. Come early spring the following year, during my brother's commune meeting, something momentous occurred regarding work assignments that he couldn't wait to tell me about upon returning. Wang Tianhe seemed utterly worn out by his shrewish wives at home, appearing listless and unsteady on his feet. While he barely scraped through the physical and interview rounds, his skills assessment was disastrous, constantly zoning out mid-task or fumbling with equipment until the examiner's faces darkened. During the test, the county official took a sudden fancy to personally examine this Wang lad. To everyone's dismay, Tianhe not only stammered through responses but even forgot halfway through basic arithmetic problems. Nervousness drenched him in cold sweat despite the spring chill. After standing rigid before the official for over an hour, dripping like a drowned rat, he provoked such fury that the official slammed the table, making him the village's first candidate ever rejected after passing preliminaries. Staggering out weakly, he tripped on the office threshold and blacked out. Upon waking, he'd lost his marbles, raving about landing a state job, marrying some Lin girl, and becoming workshop foreman. Hearing this, a sense of foreboding crept into my heart. Sure enough, within days Wang Tianhe came charging to my doorstep in a frenzied state, demanding to see me. This isn't right, Yuelian, come out, tell them, you're my rightful wife. I'm the newly appointed technician. I hid in the inner room listening to Zhang Xiaoyan's description, confirming Wang Tianhe was also reborn, but his rebirth came at the worst possible time. He'd already been blacklisted for his exam misconduct. barring him from factory work this lifetime. Only after the Wang family rushed over did I reveal myself to Tianhe. He took one look at me and burst into racking sobs. Yulian, it's all wrong, everything's gone wrong. I remained silent as Wang Tianhe's mother Li Tsuihua dragged Jiang Qingxue into bowing apologetically before me. I simply watched the Wang family haul him onto the ox cart. Only when the cart was securely hitched did I turn to them and say meaningfully, the commune inspection team arrived today with several officials. Had I not delayed matters, you'd be collecting your sons from the commune police by now. Since he's ill, he should rest at home. Supporting the family should remain the responsibility of you two elders in the production team. Li Tsuihua kept murmuring agreement, but soon word spread that Wang Tianhe had fallen ill in the dead of night, tumbling into the village well and shattering his leg. From then on, he limped badly, never again able to handle heavy labor. Story 2, her husband, a military doctor, took his sickly sister-in-law with him. This was because the rural conditions were poor, and he was afraid she would suffer. When I had a difficult childbirth and high fever, he refused to return, citing that his sister-in-law had a more severe cold, leaving me with lifelong health issues. After the child was born, who was sickly, I begged him to bring back some medicine, but he coldly replied, "My brother's child needs it more, you and your child can bear with it." I waited until he came home, thinking life would finally stabilize, but instead, I heard, "Let's get a divorce, my sister-in-law's child is being called a bastard at school, he can't continue without a proper status." I was literally infuriated to death. I opened my eyes again, back to the day of my difficult labor. This time, I found a doctor in advance, had a smooth delivery, and immediately drafted the divorce agreement. This time, I will make him and my sister-in-law pay the price. Chapter 1. Just after giving birth, I rushed to the unit where Xie Zhengwo was stationed without even taking my postpartum rest. When I arrived at the gate, they warmly welcomed me upon hearing I was looking for Xie Zhengwo, and a young soldier nearby teased, "Dr. Xie, who is this? Could she be one of your admirers? I never expected you and sister-in-law to be so happy, and yet here's a girl willing to travel 1,000 miles to find you." I pushed the door open, intending to greet Xie Zhengwo. To my surprise, his face immediately darkened as soon as he saw me, because his sister-in-law Qin Mei was lying naked beneath him, and Xie Zhengwo's hands, which were giving her a massage, were still resting on her back. The little soldier next to them, who was already used to such scenes, smiled and closed the door for us. Qin Mei heard my voice and quickly clutched her clothes, looking up at me. "Chuanwan, why are you here?" As soon as these words were spoken, we looked at each other's faces and both froze. Qin Mei is 6 years older than me, but now her skin is flawless, with not a single wrinkle on her face. Just after giving birth, I was physically weak, and there was still a lingering smell of blood and milk on me. Seeing this, Xie Zhengwo hurriedly grabbed a piece of clothing and carefully put it on Qin Mei. As he dressed her, he looked visibly displeased. "Song Chuanwan, why are you here? Don't you know how strict the military is? You can't just come whenever you want." I furrowed my brow and coldly stared at him. "Your sister-in-law can settle here, so why can't I, as your wife? Or are you trying to hide the fact that we're married, hoping they'll assume you and your sister-in-law are the couple?" It was only then that Qin Mei realized, stepped forward, leaning slightly aggrieved against Xie Zhengwo's side. "Chuanwan, what are you talking about? We're doing this here to avoid gossip. That's why we let them call us that. Zhengwo and I are completely innocent. There's nothing between us." I coldly glanced at them. Xie Zhengwo turned his head away, avoiding my gaze. There was another knock at the door. A chubby little boy rushed in and grabbed Xie Zhengwo's arm. "Dad, when are you going to transfer me to your household registration? Everyone says that if our household registrations aren't together, we're not a family, but you're clearly my dad." Xie Zhengwo's face changed instantly when he heard the word dad. He quickly gave Qin Mei a meaningful look, and Qin Mei hurriedly took the child away. I watched the child's tender back, then turned to Xie Zhengwo, whose eyes began to show panic. "Impressive, Xie Zhengwo, not caring about your own child, rushing to be a father to someone else's." He avoided my gaze, looking at my flat stomach. "You had the baby. I've been too busy lately to come back and see you. How could you just come over right after giving birth?" I ignored him, took 2 steps back, and coldly stared at him. Xie Zhengwo seemed to suddenly realize something and forced a smile as he approached. "Chuanwan, what do kids know? They're just saying random things. Besides, he's my elder brother's child, and my brother and I are as close as real brothers. It's not wrong for him to call me dad. If you're willing, you can also transfer Tian Ci to our household registration." Chapter 2. I chuckled, finding Xie Zhengwo's words utterly absurd, but he's not saying this for the first time. 3 years ago, Xie Jiangwo's older brother passed away unexpectedly, under his mother-in-law's matchmaking. It was only natural for him to take on the heavy burden of supporting his sister-in-law and nephew. Initially, he only occasionally helped out with their care. Little did I know that the more I helped, the closer we became, to the point where I almost treated my sister-in-law as my own wife. It wasn't until 2 years ago that Xie Jiangwo was assigned to join the military. I had thought Xie Jiangwo would take me with him, but he said Qin Mei was in poor health and needed his care, so he left quietly with her, leaving me to care for my elderly mother-in-law alone. He promised to visit me every year before he left, and I believed him. The first year, he did come back once. After that, no matter how many letters I wrote or inquiries I made, there was no further news from him. Not even a penny of allowance or grain was sent, only leaving behind the words, "The team is tight, and nothing can be allocated." I said I wanted to go to him, but he flatly refused. "It's dangerous to follow the army, and it's not suitable for women to get involved," naively. I thought he was considering my well-being and felt that being a military doctor was an unparalleled honor. As his wife, I couldn't add to his troubles, so I gradually stopped bothering him. When I had a difficult labor, the village doctor was helpless and said only Xie Jiangwo could save me. I sent someone to deliver a message to him in a hurry, but he replied with, "My sister-in-law has a fever, I can't leave." After the child was born, I developed a chronic illness. Upon returning from his military service, the first thing he did was not to visit, but to file for divorce. He did so because he said he couldn't let Xie Tianxi grow up without a father, branded as a bastard. I find it laughable. During all these years Qin Mei was with him in the military. Everyone assumed she was Mrs. Xia, my child, and I are nothing more than unwanted burdens. Just as I was about to say something, a loud crash came from outside the door. Xie Tianxi burst in like a cannonball, slamming me into the fireplace. My back slammed hard against the stove, and the scorching metal pressed against my arm. I let out a muffled groan as I watched my skin peel off layer by layer. "You filthy woman, what are you doing here? Are you here to steal my dad from me?" Xie Tianxi yelled at me. "You're just a disgusting country bumpkin. It's revolting just looking at you." He spoke rapidly, still with a standard Mandarin accent. Qin Mei quickly stepped forward, gently coaxing him. "Tianxi, speak to her in your local dialect. She doesn't understand Mandarin." I looked down at Xie Tianxi and smiled. "Who are you calling a bitch? Who taught you that?" He was clearly stunned. "No one in our village speaks Mandarin, and I learned it word by word from TV dramas just to get closer to Xie Jiangwo. My arm is blistered and numb with pain." Xie Jiangwo stood far away and tossed over a piece of gauze. "Chuanwan, don't take it to heart, he's just a child. For your injury, just rinse it with cold water." I glared at him intensely. "You're a doctor, you know this burn could get infected if not treated, yet you're telling me to bandage it myself." He gave me an impatient look. "If you hadn't rushed over here on your own, this wouldn't have happened, would it? Once you've taken care of your wound, go back," he added, without even stepping closer. I stared at him in shock, my throat feeling as if it were blocked, unable to make a sound. I never imagined that in his eyes, I was such an unnecessary presence, but I don't plan to go back. Chapter 3. Xie Jiangwo heard this, his voice restrained with displeasure. "Song Chuanwan, you can't stay here. Didn't I tell you already? It's dangerous here. This isn't a place for a woman like you. Go back tomorrow and stay home, waiting for me to return." I looked at him, and my eyes instantly welled up with tears. "I got injured giving birth and fell ill, so I can't work in the fields. We don't have grain coupons at home, the baby has no milk to eat, and my body is about to give out. What do you want me to go back for? To wait for death?" Xie Jiangwo frowned and looked at me with disgust. "I sent you a bunch of medicine during the flu season. How did you get sick? I sent the grain and cloth coupons back on time. What are you pretending to be pitiful for now?" I laughed. Tears streamed down my face as I laughed. I glared at him, my eyes wide open. "Xie Jiangwo, you never sent me those things, even when I was pregnant, running a high fever, and nearly fainted, and wrote you so many letters. You never came back once. Do you know what I ate throughout my entire pregnancy?" Xie Jiangwo frowned, his tone skeptical. "How is that possible?" He paused mid-sentence, as if suddenly realizing something, and turned to look at Qin Mei, with disbelief. He walked over to her and whispered a few words. Shortly after, Xie Tianxi's voice came from inside the room. "Dad, why are you helping outsiders bully Mom? Those things belong to the three of us, why give them to outsiders?" Xie Jiangwo was busy calming Xie Tianxi down, and it took a while before he came out, his tone becoming stiff. "Chuanwan, Tian tore those letters. I didn't know, he's still young, and I didn't notice either. The thing I was supposed to send you earlier. Maybe my sister-in-law just forgot for a moment. I just find it laughable." So you never questioned why I haven't had any news, you never even bothered to ask, Xie Jiangwo frowned, looking completely justified. How was I supposed to know what was going on with you? I thought you just didn't want to write to me. Besides, sister-in-law spent those things on me. Why are you getting so upset now? I clenched my teeth and couldn't speak. Perhaps my expression was too grim, because Xie Jiangwo came up and held my hand. Chuanwan, don't be like this. I'll go to the mailroom myself from now on, and I'll keep up with how you and the kids are doing. Don't be upset. Since you've been feeling unwell lately, stay here a few more days, and I'll help you recuperate. Go back once you're fully recovered. The kids need you too. I snorted coldly, not wanting to engage with him at all, and turned to enter the house. Xie Jiangwo followed closely behind. With no one else in the room, his eyes suddenly grew fervent, and he sat down by my bed, whispering, Chuanwan, I've missed you so much. With that, he eagerly kissed me. The next moment, a loud knocking came from outside the door. Xie Tianxi sat at the door, his arm clearly showing a large, swollen burn. Qin Mei stood there in panic, at a loss for what to do. She was crying so hard she could barely catch her breath. I don't know what happened. The kettle wasn't supposed to be there. It might be that Chuanwan bumped into it while pouring water earlier, moved the kettle, and Tianxi didn't know, so he ran into it. Xie Tianxi was crying and pointing at me, yelling curses. It's all this bitch. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have been scalded. Dad, I don't want her staying here. You have to kick her out. Chapter 4. Xie Jiangwo's expression clearly showed his impatience, his eyes growing colder. Chuanwan, you can stay here if you want, but why are you messing with things? Don't you know that a child's skin is delicate? What if it leaves a scar after being scalded? I frowned. Xie Jiangwo, I didn't even touch it just now. Before I could finish speaking, Xie Jiangwo impatiently bumped into me and walked towards Xie Tianxi. My arm, which was still recovering from a burn, hit the wall behind me. And a sharp pain surged from deep within my nerves. Xie Jiangwo didn't even glance at me, only coldly saying, Song Chuanwan, your arrival has disrupted the harmony here. Can't you tell? Tianxi has been extremely irritable these past 2 days. I've never seen him like this before. I stared at him, my throat tightening. Are you trying to get rid of me? He didn't answer, just silently looked away, as if in tacit agreement. After a long time, I finally spoke. I'm not leaving, you're my husband. It shouldn't be me who leaves. When Xie Jiangwo heard this, he sighed irritably and dragged me out the door. My arm was still bleeding, but he didn't even glance at it, just roughly stuffed a few grain coupons into my bag. Get out of here. Don't stand in our way. Hearing this, I felt a tightness in my chest and my breathing became erratic. When I turned my head again, I saw him squatting beside Xie Tianxi, tending to his wounds. It wasn't that he didn't know how to be kind to people. It was that he simply didn't want to be kind to me. Just a moment ago, when bandaging Xie Tianxi, his technique was skillful and meticulous, but with me, he wouldn't even move a piece of gauze closer. The crowd grew larger, their eyes filled with disdain. The sound of Xie Tianxi's crying continued to come from inside the room, mixed with Xie Jiangwo's soft words of comfort to Qin Mei. Some people in the crowd were whispering, could this be the mistress? Exactly, I always thought Dr. Xie seemed upright and not the type to have an affair. This woman has no shame, probably eager to be the one to destroy someone else's family. I hadn't even had a chance to refute when the door suddenly opened. Xie Jiangwo stood at the door, his eyes cold. Song Chuanwan, get out of here right now. Don't embarrass yourself any further. Even Qin Mei spoke up, holding Xie Tianxi in her arms, her voice gentle. Chuanwan, Tianxi will be fine, even if you left such a big scar on him. He won't blame you. The surrounding noises grew increasingly chaotic, but I suddenly became quiet. I looked up at Qin Mei, slowly curling the corners of my mouth into a smile. Then, I knelt down step by step, sobbing uncontrollably. Sister-in-law, Tianxi is your and brother's child. Rest assured, I will take good care of them and treat them as my own sons. I looked up at her, tears in my eyes, my tone carrying a sarcastic plea. Please, give my husband back to me. Okay. Chapter 5. The surrounding people fell silent upon hearing my call of husband. They all turned to look at Xie Jiangwo, their eyes filled with confusion and suspicion. Wait, she just called Qin Mei big sister-in-law. What's that relationship? I'm from the same village as Dr. Xie. I also remember Dr. Xie's wife being surnamed Song, not Qin, right? I thought I was mistaken before, but is there really something going on? Various whispers entered Xie Jiangwo's ears, his face darkened. And with a sudden push, he shoved the crowd aside and forcibly pulled me up from the ground. I struggled against him, and my freshly burned arm was exposed as I tried to break free. The arm was torn open, causing everyone to gasp in shock. Good heavens, Is that arm almost completely ruined? What happened here? Could it be that Qin Mei was jealous and hurt her? Xie Zhengwo couldn't pull me away, so he whispered in my ear, Chuanwan, let's talk inside, let's not make a scene out here. I shook my head desperately, my voice choked with emotion. Jiangua, stop yelling at me and hitting me, please. I agree to add Tianci to my household registration. Isn't that enough? Back then, you said Qin Mei was in poor health and insisted on taking her to the military, but now, she doesn't look like a sick person at all. She's much healthier than me. Please, don't divorce me, don't abandon our children. As soon as my voice rang out, everyone around instantly understood the whole situation. Several young soldiers, their faces ashen, stepped forward. Dr. Xia, we've always said you were a good man, but we never expected you to do something like this. How could you bring your sister-in-law to join the army? Everyone knows only married couples can apply for army accompaniment. Qin Mei couldn't help but step forward, her face pale. It's not like that. Jiangua and I are innocent, we didn't do anything. Xie Jiangua also got anxious. Don't get the wrong idea, my older brother passed away, so it's only right that I take care of my sister-in-law. The crowd no longer looked as if they believed him. Even if you're taking care of her, can't you do it in a more appropriate way? A widow joining the army, does that sound right? In our village, the gossip alone could drown her. Dr. Xie gets so many grain coupons every month, claiming they're for his mother's respect. But he doesn't send a single one back, leaving his wife and kids at home eating coarse grains. I watched them go from suspicion to clarity one by one, and finally couldn't hold back my tears. Xie Zhengwo, then tell me, if it's not because you're selfish, why have you never cared about our family? On the day the child was born, they had a high fever, and when I came to ask for medicine, you said Xie Tianxi's health was more important. Do you know how your mother has treated me all these years? She wouldn't even feed me. I didn't gain a single pound during my pregnancy, but I lost 10. Who would have thought I'm actually 6 years younger than my sister-in-law? The crowd erupted, and all eyes turned to Xie Zhengwo's face. Oh my god, I thought this woman was older than Qin Mei, but she's actually younger. Her complexion and physique are completely worn out, her child almost died, and Xie Zhengwo is still here flirting around. The composure in Xie Zhengwo's eyes finally begins to crumble. He whispered my name, stepped forward, and gently held my trembling hand. I'm sorry, Chuanwan, I didn't know. I really didn't know, I swear. After this mission is over, I will definitely come home and give you and the child a better life. I turned my face away, not wanting to look at him. At that moment, the minister strode over with several officers. He saw me kneeling on the ground, covered in wounds, and his expression changed abruptly. What's going on here? How did it come to this? Chapter 6. Several officers whispered the details of what had just happened into his ear. And the minister frowned deeply. Xie Zhengwo, what on earth is going on? Xie Zhengwo flinched. It's nothing, minister, it's a family matter. After saying that, he hurriedly came to pull me. Spring warmth. Come, let's talk inside. The minister, however, stopped him in his tracks, frowning at him. She's injured like this, and you're still pulling her around without care. Even though you're a doctor, you're still part of the military and must follow military discipline. When you reported your military attachment, whose name did you use, Song Chuanwan or Qin Mei? Xie Zhengwo hesitated, not daring to speak. The minister merely glanced at him sideways and then spoke. If you dare to forge your identity and falsify information, you are deceiving your superiors and betraying your subordinates, and you are defiling military discipline. The minister spoke while gently guiding me behind him. Seeing my battered arm, his eyes filled with concern. Young lady, tell me, what kind of help do you need? I can stand up for you. From now on, you'll be an official family member of our unit, enjoying the best treatment. How about that? I looked at him, tears finally spilling over, but I still gently shook my head. No, I just want a divorce from Xie Zhengwo. As soon as I said this, everyone froze, their eyes all turning to me. Xie Zhengwo shoved Qin Mei away abruptly and rushed over to me. What did you say, Chuanwan? Are you crazy? You just had a baby. And now you want a divorce? Yes, I want a divorce. My voice was steady, but every word cut like a knife. All these years, you've only cared about your sister-in-law's family, never me, and never our child. I always thought you were too busy in the army. It wasn't until today that I realized you were raising someone else's child as your own son. I don't want you anymore. Even if I starve to death with our child, I don't want him to have a father like you who can't be faithful. Xie Zhengwo's face changed instantly, and he quickly stepped forward to grab my hand. Chuanwan, what are you talking about? There must be a misunderstanding. And I'm not as bad as you say. We can't get divorced. I looked him straight in the eye and asked coldly, why not? Aren't you already in a new family? What are you still clinging to me for? I pushed him away and turned to face the minister. Minister, I formally submit a divorce application, hoping for your approval. When Xie Jiangwo heard this, he panicked. He pulled me over, his face dark. Minister, I have to approve this. She can't decide on her own. The minister's face darkened, and his gaze noticeably cooled, though not agreeing. He shook his head at me helplessly. I understood the minister's predicament and decided to stay and think of a solution. Seeing that I had softened, the minister immediately instructed someone to take good care of me. Shortly after, someone brought clean clothes and arranged a room for me, instructing me to rest well these few days. I had planned to leave as soon as I thought of a way to divorce, but I didn't expect Xie Jiangwo to hold me back and not let me go. He followed me into the room and spoke in a hushed voice. Spring is warm, let's not get divorced. Okay, I can't live without you. Besides, we already have a child. I don't want him to grow up without a father from birth. I looked at him, sneering. Fine. Then ask your sister-in-law to move out and stop living together. Chapter 7. Xie Jiangwo's face suddenly changed, his tone showing a hint of impatience. Where can a woman like her go? How can she survive with her poor health? Besides, Tianci is timid. How will he get by at school without a father? I looked at him, my eyes as cold as ice. You care so much about them, so why have you never cared about me? Do you know how your mother has been treating me these past 3 years? The day before I got pregnant, she forced me to carry water from the mountain to bathe. I walked back and forth over a dozen times, fell so many times that I was covered in bruises and couldn't even stand up, yet she still called me a useless. Xie Jiangwo, when you take care of someone else's son, have you ever thought about how your own wife is suffering, how your child is sick? Xie Jiangwo opened his mouth as if to say something. Finally, he remained silent, lowered his head, and let out a long sigh. The room was eerily quiet. So much so that the rustling of the wind through the branches outside was clearly audible. Xie Jiangwo was still sighing, his lips slightly moving, but he couldn't seem to find the words to speak. I suddenly spoke up. You won't agree to the divorce, will you? I turned around, my face no longer showing any pleading. But I don't need you to sign it either. He froze. I slowly pulled out a piece of paper from under the pillow and unfolded it deliberately. That's the complaint I prepared. Written carefully and clearly, it doesn't matter if you refuse to sign the divorce agreement. I've already written a letter of complaint and am ready to send it to the military supervisory department. I looked at him and said, word by word, you unilaterally altered the military records, reporting your widowed sister-in-law as your spouse. This matter, if anyone investigates, is not a small issue. Xie Jiangwo's face turned pale instantly, and his voice lowered. Are you threatening me? I smiled, and at that moment, I even felt at ease. Not a threat, but a reminder. I've finally learned not to expect you to have a change of heart, so here's a choice for you. Choose between saving face or getting a divorce and returning everything that belongs to me. Xie Jiangwo didn't respond, just kept holding my hand and sighing. After a long while, he finally muttered, spring warmth. Can you give me a month? I will definitely give you a satisfactory answer. I nodded. After all, my health is indeed not good now, and I also need Xie Jiangwo to help me recuperate. Moreover, the evidence I have in hand is enough to bring him down, so I am not afraid of any new moves he might make. I stayed in the military, and Xie Jiangwo came every day. He tried to gauge my intentions. Not wanting a divorce, but I was firm each time. If he said he didn't want a divorce, I made him send his sister-in-law away. After a few such exchanges, Xie Jiangwo seemed to grow impatient, and his initial reluctance to divorce began to waver, but I still insisted on not wanting a divorce. But since the day I brought up the divorce, the atmosphere in the unit has changed. The minister personally kept me and arranged for me to work as an assistant in the medical office. They said it was taking care of the doctor's family, but I knew it was more of a clear message. But Qin Mei and Xie Jiangwo pretended not to understand and continued with their usual routine every day. I didn't bother with them, as after divorcing Xie Jiangwo, I needed to focus on my own career. So, during this time, I learned a lot of new things. I assisted with drug registration during the day and slowly organized the financial records of these years at night. Even photocopied 3 copies of Xie Jiangwo's secretly altered military application form from that year, neatly sorted and placed in envelopes. When the minister came for an inspection, he casually praised me for being meticulous, then turned to Xie Jiangwo and said, your wife is truly a great help at home, you must cherish her. He forced a stiff smile on his face, while Qin Mei beside him lowered her head, her eyes betraying a hint of panic. Chapter 8. Xie Jiangwo was thrilled to see my recent divorce requests decrease, and he excitedly planned our life after the military service ended with me. Little did he know, during the day while I was helping manage the medicine inventory, a soldier ran up to me with a letter from the Beijing Garrison Command Discipline Inspection Department. I opened it and found it was an acknowledgement of receipt, the issues you reported, including falsification of military dependents information, misuse of military resources, and failure to fulfill the duty of supporting military dependents, have been received. A formal investigation will be launched after verification. Thank you for your cooperation and trust. I folded the letter and tucked it into a book behind the medicine cabinet. From this moment on, Xie Zhengwo's real good days are over. Before Xie Zhengwo's scandal broke, Qin Mei got into trouble first. I was organizing the medicine cabinet in the clinic when someone came running in, gasping for breath and speaking excitedly. Chuanwan, come out quickly, Dr. Xie has gone mad, he's hitting people. I frowned and put down what I was holding. Stepping outside, he saw Xie Zhengwo rushing into the military living quarters, his face ashen, his eyes on the verge of collapse. He kicked open Qin Mei's door with a single forceful motion. Inside, a logistics soldier in a military uniform hadn't even reacted yet when he was knocked down with a single punch. Qin Mei was only wearing a half-loose nightgown, her face lightly made up, and in her hand, she clutched the bracelet Xie Zhengwo had begged for her. She panicked and cried, rushing to stop Xie Zhengwo. Zhengwo, listen to me, it's not what you think, not what I think. Xie Zhengwo seemed crazed, his voice tearing. I even lost my wife for you. And you've been with someone else all along. He roared like a beast, his eyes bloodshot, his fingers trembling. You said you were unwell and wanted me to take you with me to the army. You said you were afraid of being bullied by the villagers and that no one would take care of Tian Ci. And yet, you were sleeping with another man in my house. Do you even deserve my older brother? I stood at the edge of the crowd, quietly observing. Not saying a word, someone recognized me and whispered. Chuanwan, aren't you going to go in and take a look? I smiled and shook my head. Xie Zhengwo arrived the next morning. He stood at the door of the clinic, unshaven and with a vacant look in his eyes. He looked at me, his voice hoarse. Chuanwan, I was wrong. Now I realize that you are the most important. That bitch Qin Mei has been deceiving me all along. She even used the grain coupons I gave you to support another man. I didn't look at him and continued counting the medicine inventory. Didn't you say she was my elder brother's widow, and I had to take care of her for him? Didn't you say she would definitely not take your things? He was speechless, remaining silent for a long time before speaking. She deceived me. I really didn't know about her and others. What's the difference between you and her? You've been deceiving me all along. I looked up at him, my eyes as calm as a still pond. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the unusual relationship between you and Qin Mei? Did you really think I would believe you were innocent when you brought her along on the military mission? Back then, I was foolish. I still loved you, so I chose to deceive myself into believing in you. No longer in love now. His voice trembled. I chuckled softly. Xie Zhengwo, every action of yours has been pushing me away. He fell to his knees with a thud. Chuanwan, please, don't leave me. I'm willing to put the house and land under your name. All I ask is that you don't report me. Don't divorce me. I looked at the disheveled man in front of me, but in my mind, I saw the scene of me falling down the mountain while heavily pregnant. I glanced down at him, my voice barely audible. I am no longer the woman you thought would forgive and rely on you. Chapter 9, less than 10 days after the complaint was submitted, the disciplinary committee issued an official document. Xie Zhengwo was dismissed from military service, stripped of his military doctor qualification, and permanently barred from employment due to issues such as tampering with military dependents' records, misusing supplies, and falsifying military deployment information. Qin Mei was also sent back to her hometown, and the originally claimed caring for a widow turned into keeping a sister-in-law as a concubine. Those colleagues who had privately supported him now turned away and said nothing more, and Xie Tianxi also lost all face due to Qin Mei's affair. Now he dares not go out, and every day he rants like a madman, insisting he is not a bastard and has a father. That no longer concerns me. After Xie Zhengwo was detained, the minister approved my divorce application. The speed of the process even took me by surprise. I officially divorced, left the military district, and took the children with me. On the day I left, many people came to see me off, including the young soldier who had stood up for me. He handed me a letter. It's from the Military Commission's Garrison Department. They've read your work report and recommendation letter, and they're willing to invite you to join the medical logistics team. I was stunned for a moment, took the letter, and my spirits soared. Arrived in the capital, busy but fulfilling work. The child is receiving systematic treatment, and their health is gradually improving. I rented a place and started a new life with the money I earned myself. The child is slowly learning to speak and has started calling me mom. He is no longer the malnourished pitiful child from his previous life. In this life, I've fattened him up, and by the age of 3, he could recite the 300 Tang poems. In my 4th year in the capital, I took my child to the hospital for a follow-up appointment. As I stepped out the door, a military vehicle from the district was parked nearby. It was my current direct supervisor who personally came to pick me up. He has always been very kind to me. It's not a passionate pursuit, but a patient waiting. He smiled and waved at me, holding the gifts he bought for me and little bow. As I was adjusting my child's scarf, ready to approach him, I heard a hoarse shout from behind me, "Spring warmth." I didn't move, nor did I stop my steps, until the voice sounded again, this time with hoarseness and pleading, "Song Chuanwan, wait for me, it's me, Xie Jiangwo." I turned around. Xie Jiangwo was wearing an old military coat that had faded from countless washes, his face no longer bearing the former vigor, only exhaustion and weariness. He had lost a lot of weight, and the dark circles under his eyes showed years of poor sleep. He approached me cautiously, his voice trembling, "Chuanwan, I'm out of prison. I've thought a lot during these years in jail. I was wrong. Are you doing well now?" I glanced at him, my tone cold and steady, "Dr. Xia. You've mistaken me for someone else." I took the child's hand and got into the car without looking back. The political commissar glanced back at him, his eyes filled with pity as he looked at me. "Chuanwan, who is that? Did you kindly support a homeless man, and now he's you? Do you want me to step in and get rid of him for you?" I shook my head. "Don't bother with him, he's just a useless person." The car door slowly closed. In that moment, I saw Xie Jiangwo kneeling in place. His eyes bloodshot, as if he was still calling out my name, but I couldn't hear that voice anymore. I thought things would end here. To my surprise, Xie Jiangwo has been acting like a madman, waiting at the hospital where I work every day since that day. One day, just as my boss didn't show up to pick me up, I stepped out after finishing my night shift and saw Xie Jiangwo standing under a plane tree across the street, wearing his old, faded military coat, his hair a mess, and carrying a lunchbox in his hand. He ran over to me, a sheepish yet ingratiating smile on his lips. "Chuanwan, I specially made your favorite sparrow rib soup. It's still hot. Do you want to?" I didn't stop, not even glancing at him, and walked around him. He panicked, dropped his lunchbox, and rushed up to block me, spreading his arms wide. "You're not giving me even a single chance, are you? I've lost everything. I can't get into the military, and even the hospital is out of reach now. Everyone looks down on me. All I want is for you to forgive me just once." I finally stopped, slowly raising my eyes to look at him, my gaze as calm as still water. "Xie Jiangwo, why should I forgive you? Do you think I should feel sorry for you just because you're in a tough spot? But have you forgotten, it was you who kicked me out the door when I was at my lowest, when I begged you not to send me away. You said Qin Mei would grow tired of me if she saw me. Now what are you pretending to be so affectionate for?" He froze, his face contorted with regret. "I was possessed back then. I was a scoundrel. I raised my hand to interrupt him. "Shut up, Xie Jiangwo. I feel sick just hearing you speak. Aren't you supposed to love your sister-in-law and her son? Didn't you say Tian Ci would get bullied at school without a father? So why don't you go back to them? What? Now that you realize you're a joke, you want to drag me down with you? Weren't you supposed to be so magnanimous? What's a little green hat to you?" He froze in place, his eyes red, his voice almost pleading. "Chuanwan, I've really changed. Don't be so heartless. Even if you don't agree to forgive me, at least let me see our child. After all, he's never seen his father since birth." I chuckled, took a step closer, and whispered in his ear, "No, he already has a father." Xie Jiangwo stood there in confusion, not understanding what I meant. I raised an eyebrow at him but didn't say anything further. He reached out to grab me, but I pulled away and walked straight toward the hospital entrance. Behind me, he slumped to the ground like a lost soul, murmuring my name. He threw me into the mud, but I bloomed like a flower in it. Now that he wants to pick it back up, I only feel it's tainted. He lives in regret, while I live in the light. I'm taking my child to pursue the good life that belongs to me. The end. That concludes the first story. Don't go away, the next one is even more exciting. My husband said we should be filial to his parents and send them half of our meat and grain rations every month. I believed him, but that day I saw with my own eyes as he took a large portion of his freshly received salary and handed it over to his brother's widow. "Yao Yao, you must take good care of yourself, or I'll feel heartbroken." I was furious and made a scene, and during our argument, he pushed me into the filthy gutter. I accidentally hit my head and, choking on the foul-smelling dirty water, was mocked by him. That push completely shattered any lingering feelings I had for him, but later, when I got into college, I heard that he had left Xiaoya, crying and begging just to see me one last time. I laughed, get lost. The moment I received my admission letter, I couldn't hold back my tears any longer. No one knows how much effort and hardship I've endured to reach this moment. On the day I filled out my college application, I didn't hesitate to choose the distant Jing University. The teacher joked, "You're going so far away, will your husband agree? What if he runs off with someone else by the time you come back?" Every time my husband Jiang Huai is mentioned, people always think I'm the one who's lucky to have him. After all, he's so outstanding. While I seem so ordinary, he's hardworking and ambitious, with good looks, and at a young age. He became the director of a coal mine, while I only got the chance to stand by his side because of a childhood engagement. That childhood engagement is the only reason I got to stand by his side. I smiled and said firmly, "If it's meant to be, it will be. If it's not, forcing it won't help. What's the point of staying together if the heart is gone? Besides, free love is now encouraged. If it doesn't work out, I can always find someone else." Perhaps startled by my words. The teacher patted my shoulder, reminding me to lower my voice and not speak so confidently. He whispered, "Jiang Huai is a rare good man, with a great job and excellent conditions. If you really think that way, then, if Jiang Huai runs away, don't come crying to me." I paused and replied, "I won't." After leaving school, I followed the crowd heading home. 2 years ago, Jiang Huai got a job at the coal mine. Everyone in the village said, "He won't marry you, this little country bumpkin. He's definitely going to find someone in the city, find a pretty girl in there." When I heard those words, I immediately panicked. To marry Jiang Huai, I gave up the college entrance exam, ran alone from my hometown to the coal mine in the city to find him, insisting on marrying him, marry him. It had been 3 years since we last saw each other, and we felt a bit distant, but in the end, he heeded his parents' advice, submitted a marriage application to his unit, and married me. At first, everything seemed to be going as I wished. Our relationship grew closer, and we became the loving couple in his unit. However, everything began to change when I saw Jiang Huai give half of his newly received salary to Xiaoye and her daughter. In the evening, Jiang Huai returned home as usual, placing the ration tickets for grain and meat, now reduced by half, in front of me, saying, "The factory also issued 2 ounces of sugar, remember to keep it safe." His voice remained as crisp as ever. Once, I would feel overjoyed at the sound of his voice, but now, as I look up at his handsome profile, my heart remains utterly unmoved. Perhaps, I truly am exhausted. I subconsciously touched the scar on my forehead, which I got half a year ago when I discovered he had secretly given our grain and meat coupons to his brother's widow, left behind when he pushed me into the gutter. I stopped looking at him and got up to cook in the kitchen. He finished his usual routine of washing up, changed into his regular clothes, and came to help me in the kitchen. My hand paused while stir-frying. Who would have thought that this promising young director at the coal mine would turn out to be such a gentle, considerate, and loving husband at home, right? Once, I also felt I was very lucky, but when I saw that the casual clothes he changed into were not the gray shirt I bought, my hand holding the spatula couldn't help but tremble. I struggled to hold back my tears, telling myself I couldn't cry. However, the spatula still slipped from my hand. I left the kitchen. Jiang Huai glanced at me, took over the spatula, and continued cooking, saying, "I know you love spicy food, so I added extra chili to this dish. Eat more." He took off his apron, served the meal in front of me, playing the role of a good man as always. If it weren't for his lies, claiming that the monthly grain and meat coupons were sent to his in-laws, if it weren't for me witnessing him handing over his hard-earned salary to his brother's widow, if it weren't for him callously pushing me into the gutter for another woman, I can hardly believe that such despicable actions came from the same person. I took a deep breath, telling myself that since this man no longer has a place for me in his heart, it's time to let go bravely. Go ahead. Just then, there was a knock at the door. No guessing needed. Xiaoye had brought her child over again to mooch a meal at our place. I didn't move. Jiang Huai got up to open the door, welcoming them in. Xiaoye's gentle and sweet voice rang out, "Sister-in-law, I'm sorry to bother you again." She wore a vibrant red trench coat, her fair skin and oval-shaped face exuding an irresistible charm with every move. Her daughter seemed to have grown accustomed to the environment here. Upon seeing the meal prepared, she happily cheered and skillfully grabbed a bowl and scoop rice from the pot. She first served herself a bowl, then carefully served one for Xiaoye as well. The mother and daughter sat down at the table, chatting and laughing with Jiang Huai, as if they were the real family. While I became the extra person in this home, the superfluous one, however, an unexpected incident occurred when the 3 of them began to eat. Xia Xiaobao suddenly vomited, shouting while doing so, "It's so spicy, it's killing me." Xiaoye also furrowed her brows, though she said nothing. Her expression showed she was enduring the chili's sting. Meanwhile, I continued eating as if nothing had happened, ignoring their distress. Jiang Hui quickly served a bowl of soup to each of the mother and daughter. Unexpectedly, after drinking the hot soup, they felt even spicier. In the end, Qiaoya left our house, holding Xia Xiaobao, who was crying with tears streaming down her face. Before leaving, she said to Jiang Hui in a trembling voice, "Sister-in-law probably doesn't welcome me. I won't come again." Jiang Hui saw them to the door and returned to the house. His brow furrowed. I pretended not to see him and continued eating my meal. "Were you doing that on purpose?" Jiang Hui's tone carried a hint of doubt. Without looking up, I replied, "The food you cooked." He seemed choked up and after a moment slowly said, "I only cooked one dish." Jiang Hui sighed and started repeating his worn-out excuse again. Before Songqing passed away, he held my hand and asked me to take good care of them. It's not easy for Qiaoya, a single mother, to raise a child. So I naturally need to show more concern. You're good at cooking, and little Bao loves the food you make." Songqing was Jiang Hui's close friend and subordinate, who tragically lost his life in a coal mine collapse. Qiaoya, Songqing's wife, was originally a city belle, unable to carry heavy loads or do manual labor. With Songqing gone, their lives as a mother and daughter fell into hardship. Jiang Hui recalled the first time he met Qiaoya. She was dressed in coarse cloth, her face covered in dust, eating charred food, still holding the feverish child. At that moment, he felt shocked and guilty, feeling he had let down Songqing's trust, so he told me that taking care of Qiaoya was his responsibility, and he had to take it on. His eyes were filled with compassion for Qiaoya, perhaps without even realizing it. Every time Qiaoya was mentioned, his gaze would soften. There is always a sense of compassion, but for me, these no longer matter. I gave him a sidelong glance and asked coldly, "So you pity her struggles and deceive me? So you give her half of your salary? So you pushed me into the gutter and tried to make me serve them every day?" My words were utterly resolute, my tone cold, because I have completely lost hope in him. Jiang Hui paused, trying to explain, "You started making a scene in public, and I just wanted you to calm down. So I accidentally pushed you into the gutter. Do you even care about Qiaoya's reputation? They're a widow and her child. How can they survive without a good name? I didn't ask you to serve them every day, just to let them eat at home. Don't make it sound so harsh." The pent-up emotions of the past 6 months nearly overwhelmed me like a tidal wave upon hearing him say those words. "Jiang Hui, is she taking half your salary every month? Is she living off you? Am I not stating the facts? Isn't that right? Am I wrong? I don't know if she can survive without a reputation. But if you continue to support her like this, we can't survive anymore." Even though I had decided to let go of this man, the bitterness of being betrayed still gnawed at my heart. "Have you ever thought about me, about our home, about my reputation, about what I've become in the eyes of our neighbors?" Tears streamed down like pearls off a broken string, impossible to stop, he certainly knew, but compared to Qiaoya, all of this paled into insignificance. Seeing me cry, Jiang Hui panicked and started to explain, "Qiaoya isn't very good at cooking. I just thought your cooking is delicious, and if they come over to eat, it's just a matter of adding 2 more sets of chopsticks and bowls. It's just a matter of adding 2 more sets of chopsticks and bowls." Seeing me cry so hard, Jiang Hui shook his head, as if conceding, "Since you don't like it, I won't invite them over for dinner anymore." Back in my room, I carefully hid the admission letter. This apartment has 2 bedrooms and a living room, allocated by Jiang Hui's unit. We each took one of the rooms. I flipped open the calendar, found the date for the university registration next month, and circled it with a red pen. I looked eagerly at the circled date. Soon, I will be able to leave here. The next day, after Jiang Hui went to work, I started packing my bags, preparing to go back to the village in a couple of days to tell my parents that I got into university. Good news. And the decision to divorce Jiang Hui. While packing, I came across the bedsheet and pillowcases I had secretly embroidered a few years ago. I had originally planned to use them on our wedding night, but Jiang Hui and I never got around to having a proper wedding. We just filed the paperwork, applied for and received a marriage certificate. We still haven't shared a room even now. Initially, it was because we were unfamiliar with each other, then he was busy with work. And later because of Qiaoya and her mother. After a moment of thought, I decided to pack these items into a bag and sell them in the alley at the end of the street. The things I embroidered over several years eventually only fetched 30 yuan. Although the money isn't much, food and drinks at university are a significant expense, so this money can be saved just right. When I got home, I drew another big X on today's calendar. 20 days left. After 20 days, I'll be able to leave this place I've lived in for 2 years and start a new life. As for them, I shook my head and stopped thinking about it. just insignificant people. Jiang Huai returned very late, the prepared meal remained untouched. I ate at the factory. He casually explained it as if by the way. I couldn't help but laugh. When did the factory start providing meals? I knew he had eaten dinner already, but it must have been with Xiaoya and her daughter, from the faint scent of his perfume. That's right, he knew coming back to eat would annoy me, so he took them out to eat first. I silently collected the dishes and went back to my room. The room was filled with my high school textbooks and exam papers. I bundled them up. Now that we're getting a divorce, it's no longer appropriate for any of my things to stay here. As I was packing, I heard a knock at the door. I knew it was Jiang Huai. He's always been very polite to me and would never step into my room without my permission. What's wrong? I didn't want him to see me packing, so I asked. After a moment of silence outside, he said, "Are you angry?" I glanced at my neatly packed luggage and calmly replied, "No, I just miss my parents. I plan to go back and visit them tomorrow, see them." There was another long silence outside, and only then did I hear the footsteps leaving. I let out a cold laugh and leaned back on the bed, lost in thought. Angry? Does Jiang Huai think I'm some emotionless clay idol? Is this the kind of behavior a husband should have? What reason do I have to accept someone who is two-faced, spends most of his salary on other women, and doesn't have me in his heart, his husband? Before Songqing's death, I truly believed I had the happiness I had always dreamed of. My in-laws watched me grow up and treated me like their own daughter. Jiang Huai is the dream husband of every girl in our village. He is handsome, successful, and always takes great care of me. It's clear to anyone with eyes that my heart has long been entirely devoted to him. After marriage, he entrusted all his property to me for safekeeping, and I thought I was enjoying a loving life that others envied. However, after Song Cheng's death, he claimed to have sent half of his salary to his in-laws, when in fact he secretly gave it to another woman. When I discovered the truth and went to confront him, he pushed me into a gutter, causing head injuries during my hospital stay. He showed no concern for me, leaving me alone in the hospital while he was busy taking care of that woman's daughter. The neighbors all saw him running around for that woman, and they praised him for being such a devoted brother. Indeed, he has invested too much thought into his brother's wife. What's frightening is that he believes all of this is merely fulfilling his promise to his deceased brother by taking care of his widow. My resistance and questioning are seen as unreasonable by him. In this world, what's most frightening is not being unable to distinguish right from wrong, but deceiving oneself. But now, I no longer care. Since he wants to be kind and attentive to other men's wives, let him do as he pleases. The next morning, to my surprise, I found that Jiang Huai had already prepared breakfast, my favorite poached eggs and lean meat porridge. It's rare for me to see him up and cooking early in the morning over the past 2 years. After all, he struggles with getting up in the morning. I always have to make breakfast and call him for a long time before he finally gets up with difficulty. I quietly sat down, and the only sound at the table was the occasional clinking of the spoon against the bowl. Jiang Huai suddenly looked up and suggested, "I'll take a leave and accompany you back home." I was startled and instinctively shook my head. He frowned at me. "I'll drive you. I don't feel safe letting you go back alone." I was about to agree, thinking it would be foolish not to take advantage, when I caught sight of Xiaoya. "Ah Huai," she exclaimed, her face filled with anxiety, but her attire, a bright red dress, a brown trench coat, and even the casually falling strands of hair behind her ears, revealed her carefully crafted intellectual beauty. Her hair, casually falling behind her ears, all spoke of her meticulously crafted intellectual elegance. Jiang Huai instinctively stood up, looking towards the door, but saw no small figure following her. He wondered, why didn't Xiaobao come? Is something wrong? Is something wrong? She swallowed her tears, nodded, and helplessly said, "Xiaobao has a high fever. I don't know what to do." Jiang Huai was so anxious that he didn't even put on his scarf. Grabbing his coat and heading out the door, "Wait, I'll go with you." Xiaoya helped him straighten his coat, even carefully pulling out the collar, her gaze challenging and triumphant as it fell on me. Just as Jiang Huai was about to put on his shoes and leave, she hesitated and tugged at his sleeve. Jiang Huai was puzzled. "What's wrong?" Xiaoya glanced at me timidly, her eyes filled with conflict. Huai, maybe we shouldn't go. I'm afraid my sister-in-law might misunderstand." She looked at me and at Jiang Huai, tears welling up in her eyes, and with clenched teeth, she turned to leave. "Xiaoya," Jiang Huai called out to her, turning to chase after her, but as if remembering something, he glanced back at me. I watched their emotional tug-of-war with a cold indifference. Jiang Huai's face showed conflict, and finally, blushing, he told me, "Xiaobao is sick, I need to go see him. You take the bus alone, be careful." After saying that, he left in a hurry. I sneered. The free ride was off. It seemed I'd have to take a bus home myself. I picked up my pen, walked back to the calendar, and drew a big, bold X on today's date. 19 days left. I quickly cleared out all the books from the house, sold them, and with the $13 I got in exchange, I set off back to the village. On the way, when I got home, I told my parents about the past 6 months without holding anything back. Since I decided to divorce Jiang Huai, gossip was inevitable in the village. And I needed to prepare my parents mentally in advance. After I finished speaking, my dad let out a deep sigh, as if he had expected this all along. My mom, however, was furious. That scoundrel, how dare he betray my daughter? I'm going to give him a piece of my mind. She stormed off to the kitchen to grab something and confront Jiang Huai's parents, but luckily my dad stopped her. Forget it, old woman. He gently patted his mother's back. Back then, when Mumu gave up the college entrance exam for that boy, I knew this day might come. If it weren't for the fact that the Changs treated Mumu well and she was dead set on marrying him, I would never have agreed to it. Since that jerk has someone in his heart, let's get divorced as soon as possible so we don't delay Mumu from going to college. Mumu's future is the most important thing. We can deal with everything else later. My mother tightly gripped my father's hand. Despite the joy of her daughter finding her way back and getting into college, it couldn't ease the pain in her heart. This woman who had worked hard for her children all her life, her eyes filled with tears, her voice choked as she said, "That heartless bastard, I really misjudged him, and it ruined my daughter's life." Seeing my troubled expression, she quickly wiped away her tears and gently patted my head, comforting me. "It's okay. Nowadays everyone values free love, don't they? You'll definitely find someone better in college." My parents suppressed their sorrow and comforted me for a long time before they went to discuss the matter with my 3 brothers. My brothers are hot-tempered, and if not dissuaded, they might rush into the city tonight to teach Jiang Huai a lesson. I returned to my room, utterly exhausted. Lying in bed, I closed my eyes, but tears uncontrollably streamed down my face. I didn't want to cry. After all, everything has become history. And I've made up my mind to let go of that man. But those were all the thrills of my teenage years. That was Jiang Huai, whom I truly and passionately liked. After learning that the man I liked had been betrothed to me since childhood, I fantasized about our future every day, each scenario envisioning a lifelong union. When my mom came to see me, my eyes were already swollen from crying. She held me to sleep just like she used to when I was a child. She whispered, "My dear, you're still young. And you have a long life ahead of you. A failed marriage doesn't mean a failed life. Mom doesn't have much education, and she's never left the land she stands on, but she hopes you can go out and see the wider world, to meet more and better people. Mom and Dad, along with your brothers, all hope you can be happy." The next morning when you woke up, your brothers were all gone. Only after I returned to the city did I realize what they had done for me. I spent half a month with them at home, urging them to keep it a secret from my in-laws. Before I left, they saw me off all the way to the village entrance, repeatedly reminding me to take care of myself and to let them know if I ever felt wronged. It wasn't until I got to the town to buy a ticket that I discovered they had secretly slipped me 200 yuan. At that moment, my tears welled up again. Upon returning, I immediately marked 15 heavy X's on my calendar. There are 4 days left, only 4 days remain. I was pulling my suitcase, about to head back to my room, when I heard the sound of a door opening. Jiang Huai had just gotten off work and returned home, but to my surprise, Xiaoye and Xia Xiaobao were following behind him. He looked at me, clearly surprised. "You're back." Xiaoye, on the other hand, maintained a composed demeanor, gave me a slight nod, and then turned to walk into my room. I frowned, watching her close my door with practiced ease. And those casually piled up in the living room, my things. I turned to Jiang Huai, my gaze questioning. Jiang Huai hesitated for a moment, as if just realizing something. Your brothers don't know what came over them. They went to Xiaoye's house, beat me up, and smashed things, which caused her house to leak during the rain the other day, so they're staying here for a couple of days. Since you're not here and there isn't much stuff, I let Xiaoye stay in your room first." Is this the reason he moved my things out without my consent and let someone else stay? He saw that I remained silent, paused for a moment, and then added, "Oh, by the way, you can move your things to my room. You can stay with me, together." With that, he opened the bedroom door. "By the way, where are your books, bedding, and pillows? Why do you only have so few things?" I glanced at the small package he had casually placed on the nightstand and pursed my lips. Whatever, this house was always his. How he chooses to arrange it is no concern of mine, I calmly explained. The college entrance exam is over, and keeping the books is pointless, so I sold them. Jiang Huai frowned. "Are you confident you'll pass this time?" He seemed to finally remember something and asked me excitedly, Mumu, did you get into university? I nodded. He naturally knew about my decision to retake the college entrance exam. He occasionally tutored me, but every time he barely got through a few problems. Xiaoyu would call him away. Upon hearing my confirmation, he hugged me excitedly. Which university did you apply to? Is it local? It's close to home, so if anything happens, I can take care of you. I pressed my lips together and didn't answer. Seeing my silence, he was about to press further. I whispered softly, I'm tired. Jianghuai didn't think much of it, just nodded gently and said, then get some rest. He walked a bit further, then turned back and said, I'll go cook, I'll call you in a bit. After he closed the door, I examined his room. 2 years ago, I longed to live with him, but he always found various excuses to refuse. Now, due to Xiaoya and her daughter, I've moved in, which is quite the irony. Outside the door, their voices drifted in, his deep and low, hers soft and gentle, and the child's innocent and sweet. I sat silently in the chair, thinking, since I plan to divorce him, is it really appropriate to continue living together? I spent the whole day in the car and wanted to rest early, but Xia Xiaobao seemed to have too much energy, dancing in the living room in a white dress and stretching on a mat. She would occasionally run into Jiang Huai's room and use his bed as a trampoline. I had to find an excuse to go fetch water, taking a basin with me as I left. As soon as I stepped outside, I took a deep breath of fresh air. Mumu, why are you back? Didn't you say you were going back to your hometown to visit your parents? When my neighbor sister Wu saw me come out, she also followed me to the well with a basin in hand. I stayed for a few days and just got back today. Sister-in-law Wu is our neighbor. Her husband is a director at the steel factory, and their family lives quite comfortably. Whenever there's something delicious, she always shares some with me. We get along pretty well. Hey, I'm talking to you. Why? Sister-in-law Wu seemed to want to say something. She glanced over my shoulder and pulled me along, picking up the pace. Only when we reached the well did she shake her head and poke my forehead. Why are you so foolish? Is that woman any good? Is she any good? Her husband is dead. Yet she flaunts herself everywhere. How could you bring her into our home? Jiang Huai from your family, such a great man, is a catch everyone wants a piece of, yet you bring him home, aren't you? How foolish. Sister-in-law Wu kept rambling on, and only then did I realize that Jiang Huai had brought them back, claiming it was my idea. He said I felt sorry for Xiaoya and her mother, who had suffered misfortune, so I asked him to bring them here before returning to my family home. I gave a cold laugh. Jiang Huai was just using me as a shield to avoid criticism. I confessed everything to sister-in-law Wu. After hearing it, she cursed Jiang Huai for nearly 10 minutes and gave me a lot of advice. Worried that I might be bullied by Xiaoya, she also suggested facing it together with me. I appreciated her kindness and told her I would handle it myself, so she didn't need to worry. Back in the house, the living room was empty. I headed to the bathroom with my clothes, only to find many feminine items that weren't mine. My usual soap and towels were casually piled in the corner, right next to the trash can. In their place were a large and small towel, along with toiletries. Sister-in-law, can you move aside? Little Bao is in a hurry to use the bathroom. Suddenly, someone pushed me from behind, and my head hit the door frame again. Xiaoya was already holding Xiao Bao and taking care of his needs in the corner, after she took care of Xiao Bao's issue. Seeing that I was still standing by the door, she said gently, Sister-in-law, could you please step aside? You're in my way. But her eyes were full of triumph and disdain. I didn't back down, coldly saying, apologize. Xiaoya was stunned, clearly not expecting me to be so firm. Xia Xiaobao has always been hostile towards me. Seeing the tense atmosphere between me and her mother, she stepped forward and pushed me hard. Then she pointed at me and burst into tears, shouting, bad person. Bad person, you bully my mom, you bad woman. Hearing Xiao Xiaobao's cries, Jiang Huai rushed out of the room, asking, what's wrong, what happened? He tenderly picked up the child, while Xiaoya looked pitiful and fragile. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. Little Bao had to go urgently, and sister-in-law was just in the bathroom. I wanted her to step aside, but then, Xiaoya's explanation was tinged with a sob. Jiang Huai immediately gave me a reproachful look. Though he didn't say anything in front of Xiaoya, his actions already made his stance clear. His stance was clear. He comforted Xia Xiaobao while saying, all right, Xiaobao, don't cry. I'll scold the auntie later and make her apologize to you. Okay. Seeing the child still upset, he carried the child back inside, saying he would give her candy. Xiaoya gave me a sarcastic smile and followed Jiang Huai back inside. As the crying gradually subsided, I finished my shower expressionlessly and packed my toiletries into a basin. Back in the room, Xiaoya had already taken the child into their room. Seeing me come in, Jiang Huai paused in his packing and said, "Sit down." I knew he wanted to talk to me, nothing more than that the child is young. Don't hold it against them, they'll grow up and understand. Now we should. I'll go apologize to the child or something. I obediently sat down, gently wiped the injured area on my head with a tissue, and handed him the tissue stained with blood. The sound in his throat stopped abruptly, and his face turned grim. "I'll sleep in the living room." I picked up the quilt and opened the door. Jiang Huai thought I was still upset about what happened earlier, so he sighed and pulled me back into the room. "Xiaobao is still a child, and Xiaoya didn't mean it. You're already 20 years old. Don't argue with a child. I know you don't like Xiaoya, but she has her struggles. Don't be so petty, okay?" I let out a cold laugh and retorted, "So, you brought them back and claimed it was my idea." Jiang Huai's expression changed, but he still defended himself. "Isn't this all your brother's doing? If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have brought Xiaoya over." Arguing with twisted logic is his specialty, and I have no intention of debating him further. I stared at him directly and smiled. I heard my own voice say, "Jiang Huai, let's get a divorce." Jiang Huai suddenly looked up, staring at me in disbelief. Why, no matter how lofty your words are, they can't mask the restlessness and filth in your heart." I remained silent. After pondering for a moment, he asked, "Is it because of Xiaoya?" He seemed deeply wronged and was eager to explain, but all he could come up with were the same old clichés. I cut him off directly. "Jiang Huai, you look like such a clown when you deceive yourself." Jiang Huai opened his mouth, but no words came out. That night, Jiang Huai spent the night in the living room. The next morning, I found Xiaoya and her daughter packing their luggage. I wasn't planning to engage with them, but Xiaoya stepped in front of me and said, "Ah Huai has renovated my house for me." "Definitely, it cost a pretty penny." She covered her mouth, her eyes brimming with satisfaction, and then asked, "Sister-in-law, I hope you don't mind." I smiled and replied, "Of course not. My husband gives you half of his salary and takes such good care of you and your daughter. What's a little money compared to that?" I continued, "Why don't you just let him divorce me? Otherwise, if his workplace finds out about your affair, Jiang Huai won't get off easy, and your backing will likely be gone." Joya's smug expression vanished instantly as she said viciously, "Don't get cocky. No matter what, you can't outdo me." After saying that, she slammed the door shut with force. Joya's hostility towards me always surfaces when Jiang Huai is not around. In the evening, I unexpectedly received a call from my mother-in-law. She asked me why I didn't visit them when I went back to my hometown, and if I had a falling out with Jiang Huai. I remained silent. My mother-in-law on the other end of the phone seemed to have guessed something, sighed, and then hung up. Xiaoya and her mother moved out, and I returned to my own room. The next day, I went to the street and bought a very popular red woolen suit, along with a lipstick, planning to wear them when I went to the university. Spruce yourself up. When I got home and tried on my new clothes, a figure suddenly appeared in the mirror. Jiang Huai looked at me, his eyes lighting up. "Mumu, you should dress up more often. You look great like this." I didn't respond and silently changed out of the clothes. This is the first thing Jiang Huai has said to me since I brought up the divorce. Ironically, during the 2 years of our marriage, I never dressed up for him. I'm only 20, at an age when I should love beauty, yet I always wore coarse clothes, thinking about saving money to help him. For these 3 days, Jiang Huai has surprisingly stayed at home. Even though Xiaoya came to his place several times, he didn't go out. On the last night, Jiang Huai seemed to want to say something to me, but was interrupted by a small figure rushing in late at night. Godfather. Xiao Xiaobao's hair was disheveled, and as soon as he came in, he threw himself into Jiang Huai's arms. Jiang Huai instinctively looked towards the door. "Xiaobao, it's so late. Why are you here alone? Where's your mom?" Xiao Xiaobao, with a trembling voice, muttered, "Godfather, Mom is sick. She's been sleeping and Xiaobao can't wake her up." Hearing this, Jiang Huai immediately became anxious. He held Xiao Xiaobao, looked at me, and showed a troubled expression on his face. Jiang Huai soothed the crying child while telling me, "I'll go check it out. I'll definitely be back tonight. Wait for me." He left, carrying Xiao Xiaobao. Watching his retreating figure, I decided to write down what I had planned to say tonight in a letter. Apart from his neglect of home after Songqing left, apart from his entanglement with Xiaoya, looking at my 2-year marriage alone, he took care of my life, didn't make me work, considering my young age and refraining from intimate acts, encouraged me to retake the college entrance exam, and sometimes even helped me with my homework. Based on this, I should make it clear about my situation with him. In the letter, I expressed my firm decision to divorce, exposed his affair with Xiaoya, and hoped he would agree to the divorce, and I also told him about the university applications I submitted. I also told him that if he agreed to the divorce, he should write to the university I was about to attend, and I would return for a visit. The next day, I left the letter on the table and dragged my luggage to the train station. The 2-day train journey was bumpy, and I could only catch a few winks in a semi-conscious state. Finally, after a bumpy ride, I arrived at the school and breathed a sigh of relief. After completing the enrollment procedures, the intense academic life began. A month later, I received a letter from Jiang Huai. In the letter, he firmly stated that he would not agree to the divorce. He claimed that he still loved me in his heart. He also explained that he had no connection with Xiaoya, knowing that I didn't like her, and he promised not to see her again. He hoped I would return. I kept the letter without replying. Jiang Huai sends a letter every month, and I receive them all without ever responding. In the last month of the semester, he mentioned that he would come to accompany me and take me home. However, Jiang Huai did not show up as promised. In the letter, he suddenly agreed to the divorce and asked me to come home. As the semester was coming to an end, I returned home. From his brothers, he learned that Xiaoya was pregnant, and her family came to his door demanding that Jiang Huai take responsibility. Rumors spread, and for the sake of his own future and reputation, Jiang Huai had no choice but to agree to divorce me. The next time I saw Jiang Huai was at the Civil Affairs Bureau. The first thing he said to me was, "I'm sorry." Then he told me that those rumors were deliberately spread by Xiaoya, because she wanted Jiang Huai to marry her. So Xiaoya resorted to extreme measures, willing to sacrifice her own reputation and Jiang Huai's future. She achieved her goal. She forced Jiang Huai into marrying her. Jiang Huai covered his face and wept, tears falling with his choked sobs. "Mumu, I truly regret it deeply." Looking at him, I suddenly felt grateful that, when I was young and naive, he had sternly rejected my attempts to get close to him. Otherwise, if we have a child, whether this marriage ends or continues, it will be a tragedy. At the moment I received the divorce certificate, I finally felt at peace. Whatever pain or disappointment this marriage brought me in the past, it's all behind me now. I will embrace my new beginning. After graduation, I devoted myself to national construction. I dedicate my life to the country, without asking where it leads, and without counting the return journey. I will remain steadfast until the end of my life. Extra for Jiang Huai. After leaving that day, I took Xiaoya to the hospital, and by the time she received treatment, it was already 3 or 4 in the morning. Xiaoya suggested that since it was so late, I should rest at the hospital and go back tomorrow. I thought it was too late, and Mumu must be asleep, so I agreed to stay. Little did I know that when I returned the next day, I would never see her again. I went to Mumu's room and found the letter she left. In the letter, she said, she wants a divorce from me. She accused me of always using the pretext of taking care of my brother's widow to get close to Xiaoya. She said that if Songqing knew how I was taking care of his wife, he'd probably come back from the underworld in anger. As I read her letter, I reflected deeply. I realized my mistake, and while waiting for Mumu to grow up, my thoughts wavered. Each time I helped Xiaoya, my heart wandered. Xiaoya's understanding and Xiaobao's cheerful charm made me overlook the fact that I already had a wife, leading me to do something I'm ashamed of, a shameful act. Watching where she studied, she went so far away just to avoid me. I immediately wrote to her. She never replied. That night, I got drunk, and Xiaoya sneaked into the house. In my drunken state, I mistook her for Mumu and committed an irreversible mistake. A month later, Xiaoya got pregnant, and she started making a fuss, with her family also coming to cause trouble. Suddenly, rumors about me and Xiaoya spread among the neighbors and around the factory. In the end, I had to divorce Mumu and marry Xiaoya. After marrying Xiaoya, she seemed like a completely different person, always on edge. Several promotion opportunities slipped away because of her outbursts. Watching my friends get promoted one by one while I stayed in place, she called me useless. My life with Xiaoya eventually turned into mutual loathing. I often can't help but wonder, would things have been different if I hadn't approached Xiaoya? I have no way of knowing the answer, yet, my life has truly been meaningless. That's it for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Feel free to leave any suggestions in the comments below. See you in the next video.